Hello, hello. Welcome, Techthusiasts, to Wednesday night Techthusiasm live podcast. Um, Published this one this morning. We got a special guest today, a community member. We're going to kind of do a virtual home theater tour. We're going to talk about his home theater journey with a kind of a specific slant towards sourcing content and the road that brought him into Kaleidoscape. We'll see what other topics of interest come up and hang out and have some fun. I've got a whole bunch of other things. If we get to it towards the tail end, other things brewing around the channel. The Apple gear is starting to arrive. The brand new woven cases and stuff are here, getting the new phones on Friday, and some other gear hopefully on its way as well. But so the topic for tonight, again, community member spotlight. I need to come up with a catchy phrase for it. Community spotlight, member spotlight, virtual tour, and some fun home theater experience discussion and all of that. So we'll let folks kind of gather in here. Welcome one, welcome all. As you're coming in, of course, please hit the like button, sound off in the comments. Let me know who's out there, where you're from, if you're new, if you're a regular, and if you've done anything interesting in your home theater or AV systems in the last week since we last spoke. It's been a fun week of activity. I did some more consulting sessions this past weekend. There's one right there, Mr. Greg. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sharing some Control 4 programming knowledge and all of that around. Welcome to Julius. Welcome to Ren. Apple Vision Pro being Apple Store only needs scheduled appointment. I think that was actually kind of pre-announced. We'll see what happens with all that coming up. There's Mia. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Love all the green names. If you didn't know, if you're a channel member, StreamYard, YouTube gives you a really cool green name. So feel free to check that out. Of course, as we go tonight, always appreciative for anybody that wants to throw out super chats, super stickers, and that sort of thing. But feel free to chime in. We'll be watching comments and answering questions and all of that as we go. So without further ado, let me introduce my special guest, Mr. Michael. He's been a community member for a while. We met more directly some time ago now. He actually did kind of one of the consulting calls where we were talking about like theater advice kind of thing. And kind of we hit it off. We've been texting, chatting, and kind of becoming friends in the last several months and all that. So welcome, Michael.
Thanks.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Let everybody know who you are, where you're from, what you're all about.
Sure, I'm Michael. I lived in northern New Jersey for most of my life. Just moved to Raleigh about a year ago to join my family and extended family. And I've been into home theater, had really a 5.1 setup, kind of skipped the whole HD generation. But since I built a home, had a room that I really wanted to get up to modern specs and put in a 714 system right now. And between audio advice, Audioholics, and Jeremy's help, I think I've pieced together the right solution. So
awesome. Why don't you let's talk about your space here. Let me prepare screen share.
Yeah, sure. It's a little bit of a tighter room. It's 13 by 18 and a half, I think. Mostly all BMW speakers in wall, an AVM 70 with a monolith 11 amp powering everything. And then the sources, as we'll discuss, are Kaleidoscape, Panasonic Blu-ray player, and Apple TV, of course.
So you got the dark cave, kind of like I do. Got it all black.
Yeah, the paint, and also there are some Hunter Douglas blinds that have the room darkening with they block the channels on the side. So even during midday, it's like can't see your hand in front of your face, which is really great for the projector, which is a Sony 6000 series. So plenty of brightness for this room.
Awesome. And you got a 16:9 screen right now, you were saying, right?
Yeah, I just have a temporary screen. I'm still trying to play around with some of the sizing, but I've been talking to the guys over at Seymour, and I'm going to do some probably vertical masking a screen. So
Go AT and put the The BMWs behind it.
Yeah, they're mounted in wall, the LCR right now. So yeah, definitely acoustically transparent.
Excellent. Do you have, I don't remember, do you have a video processor on the projector, or are you just the Sony right now?
Just the Sony right now, and anamorphic lens and video processing, something I've been thinking about, but I still have to put two proper subs in here. And obviously the K expenses recently, and then the
Yep.
screen's coming, so it's a work in progress, but so is the rest of the house. So it's I'm sure the first year in a new house is quite a bit of projects.
For sure. Yeah, and there are rooms. Everybody's room is a journey. How long have you been working on the space?
Probably actively maybe 6 months. It's been pool season, and that's been nice here in North Carolina.
Yeah,
But spending more and more time in here and getting everything put together. I don't know if it was the timing of it or Kaleidoscape itself, but man, I'm really enjoying the room now. So
what are the dimensions? I don't know if you just mentioned that.
13 by 18 and a half.
And you said 7 point, well, to
714, 724 coming. So
yep. Awesome. So yeah, we got the Anthem in there. The monolith, that's the Class D model.
Yeah.
How do you feel about those?
Good. So, your consulting time was super helpful to me. It saved me a ton of time, especially with the content and video sources. But I hooked up with Gene Delasala and did something very similar with Audioholic, and kind of talked through what my thoughts were on separates and amplification. And he steered me in that direction, and it's worked out really well. So,
yeah, that still remains something that I'm planning to try out here very soon.
And of course, the AVM 70 paired with it, man. I'm besides a few software quirks or CEC and some of the networking, but on the processing side, that's been awesome. So a lot of bang for the buck there.
Excellent. What were the seats?
Valencia Tuscany luxury, and I think of all the planes and cars I've been in, probably some of the best leather I've ever seen. So really nice. I'm happy with that as well.
Are they color changing, or are the Valencia lights red?
They're color changing.
Okay.
But man, when you put the footrests up, you get some bleed onto the front wall and screen. So
yep, yeah, that's the eternal problem, I think, with home theater seats. They definitely need to be defeatable or turned off during content. These do the same thing. I've got the Revelations in here now, kind of getting used to having them in the space, and we definitely turn it's all lights all off during movie time for sure.
In the front row, I'm almost thinking about disconnecting the underneath light and just leaving the cup holder light. So.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen a bunch of people doing that, or referencing doing so. Anyway, I think what needs to happen in seating, and I already gave the feedback to the audio advice folks, is basically we need smart lighting in our chairs, just like we have control systems and automation systems potentially for the lighting in the rest of the room. It would be awesome to be able to have like a Control 4 connected chair where you power up the room, the lights come on, the chair lights come on, and then just like like I'm doing in here, like a lot of people do, right? You play the content, the lights automatically go down, and the chair lights could come off. You pause the content, you hit the end credits and stuff like that. Some of the special trigger moments, the lights could come back on. I think it would make them more costly for sure, adding features like that but that would complete a chair light situation, I think.
There's so many generic drivers for DC lighting available that integrate with HomeKit or anything else. But I've avoided Control 4, and man, I've been talking to those guys since probably early 2000s. And I've been going Apple HomeKit with HomeBridge, and lately I've been looking into what it's going to take to build a Kaleidoscape driver for HomeBridge. Get some integration there. So I mean, their APIs are all published, so their side of it is readily available. It's just some work for somebody. So
how do you control your room? at the
Yeah,
moment
I'm
then?
still pulling that together. I've set up some scenes in HomeKit. I have some Lutron light switches. The Hunter Douglas is all integrated into HomeKit as well. I just don't have that kaleidoscope integration of, the scenes and the pausing, and
Got
that
it.
driver would bring that.
So when you're using the K, do you just use the K remote or you use like an app?
So far, I've been using the app. My plan is probably to put like a small iPad in here for ease of use with family. I have the projector and the amp and everything all tied in through HomeKit and Trigger, so that's pretty smooth so far. Um,
That's
so,
cool.
but I live here alone, and whether my parents or my sister or my nephew, it's usually supervised in the theater, so it's
Yeah.
one man operation.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The family. Usually the family's never in here. Same deal without me. So I've got the ability to command and control it. But even with all the Control 4 stuff we have, I mean, I still just go back to this thing so much. In the living room, like I don't even, not nominally speaking, I don't even use the Halo Touch in the living room. I just turn the system on with the wall buttons, and it goes to the Apple TV, and then we leave that remote sitting on the coffee table, and it's always there because you can't leave the Halo, or else in a day and a half it'll be dead. It won't have the battery life. So I tend to use the Control 4 stuff only really down here. I'll grab it, the Halo remote, and when we come downstairs, and that's the thing. We'll need to talk some more about HomeKit. A couple things that I haven't done enough of is tying in things like HomeKit and possibly even Alexa for some voice command and control. But HomeKit would allow you to do the same thing. You could probably, do you use Siri commands in the room?
Yeah, I'm just starting to do that. This last weekend, I put in 12 light switches. So I have blinds. I have a lot of Ubiquiti hardware, so camera system is tied in. And then I have whole house audio. I have some Yamaha quad streamers powering some B&W speakers places. So there's a couple layers to it. I'm just starting to get into, hey, do this, do that. So.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk some about that. I'd like to figure more of that stuff out, and then ideally spin some content out about it to help people do it, because it's not always the simplest thing. Do you have did you run something as like a HomeKit hub, or I guess maybe I'm thinking more of like Homebridge. I've got a Homebridge thing on the NAS, but that's more to connect Control 4. You mentioned programming HomeKit. Is like, what's the gist of how you're structuring that, or what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the hubs are all the Apple TVs and the iPads, so the Apple devices are pretty much acting that way. I have nerded out and put VMware on an Intel NUC, and that runs a VM for Homebridge, so I can tie in, non-Apple approved or non-certified accessories, and like even the sprinklers in my yard. I mean, there's a ton of Homebridge plugins to extend products into Apple HomeKit. So, but I just didn't want to be dependent on a dealer. But through Composer and like, I should really give Control 4 another look. So,
yeah,
I wish there was in HomeKit. I wish there were another kind of level to it, but I haven't found it. So,
yeah, I've had like I said, I've had the Homebridge stuff kind of latently installed on the NAS, but I haven't done much with it. Something that I need to mess with. So what do you enjoy most about your room? Is this your first kind of full on home theater setup?
Yeah, for sure. I lived in effectively a New York City condo before I moved down here, and I had a 5.1 setup just for a little extra sound, and same thing previously. But the immersion here is what I love, and the audio just added a whole nother level. I mean, video is important, right? But probably, what is it, 70-80% might be the audio quality, and the lossless with K, and the AVM. It's just been excellent.
What kind of content do you like the most, or do you find yourself watching the most in there?
Yeah, so just a lot of movies that I might have missed out during COVID. I mean, I used to travel a lot, so I kind of wasn't watching as many movies. Like I saw Baby Driver for the first time, and that was really cool. My family watched Indiana Jones here the other day, and that was interesting. So I guess a lot of kind of action movies. I haven't gone too much into Marvel, DC. I've been buying a lot of those kind of based on some of your influence. And my nephew is 4.5, so just starting to get into the age of Disney, and preparing for that with some sales online. So
awesome. I think we got a couple shout outs and a couple questions. Want to hit these really quick. Welcome again, more of the regulars here. Frankie Kenneth, welcome. Percy, Oprah Winfrey. Question on the AVM 70. Will it ever become Rune ready? Yeah. TBD. I think a lot of people have been waiting for that for a while. And then there's some dialogue in here too. This might be something to check out. There were some videos, the Dream Media guys and a few others had them out of Cedia, was this Ava remote option. Yeah, Greg mentioned he saw it at Cedia. I don't think that's an inexpensive solution either, though. Probably even on the price competitive with a Control 4. I thought there was one question. Oh, Julius asking here. Yeah, what speakers have you owned in the past? So what's been the migration of your gear from kind of your more basic setups into the theater? What have you owned?
Yeah, I've always been a B&W and Denon Marantz guy. Really, and so all of my theaters have been B&W speakers, and mainly in wall, a couple bookshelves here and there. But I ended up going away from Denon Marantz because of how HEOS worked and whole home audio. I really wanted to tie that together, so I have Yamaha in the rest of the house paired with the B&Ws, and those quad streamers are pretty cool. So they work well with AirPlay 2 and Apple Music, and that was, I'm tied in the Apple ecosystem.
How much of an upgrade do you feel, or was the Anthem an upgrade over your prior Denon and Marantz equipment, do you think?
It's so hard to tell because I didn't have a dedicated space. I didn't have Atmos. It's a night and day difference. Yeah, tough to answer.
Yeah, I guess it's hard if you couldn't set them up in kind of a more apples comparison. Ren commenting, B&W is really good. That's definitely how that was my first home theater setups were all B&W based as well. In room back 2000 CDM series. They're what are those in wall models that you have?
I always get confused with the numbers. They're all pretty much 7 series. So let me look at the picture I sent you earlier because all the boxes are in there.
Oh, here I can share it up. It was this one. Okay, yeah, CWM 7.5. So you have the taller LCRs and then bookshelf surrounds, and then they probably have an in-ceiling model as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. I love complete in-wall lineups when the companies structure them properly like that.
And then there's all 600 series ceilings and in walls throughout the rest of the house, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. So the content path, I think, is one of the meaty parts of the discussion. That was kind of originally what led you to reaching out to talk when we had our call. I don't remember when that was now. It feels like it
Probably
was
early
quite
this
a
year,
while ago.
late last year.
Talk a little bit about what you were considering, I guess, and what led you to some of your debates.
Yeah, the rest of the house is all Apple TVs and LG screens. So having content in iTunes is important, but obviously huge quality differences in streaming. So I really was focused on going disc and ripping discs, and I have a NAS on the network, so no big deal, and I didn't really mind the time investment. And also having the iTunes or Movies Anywhere codes coming off the discs kind of helped, in that ecosystem as well. But going on the Kscape owners forum and talking to you, I was like, yeah, let me just see what this is about. And I, approached one of the dealers who had some used hardware, and then, purchased that and traded it in and upgraded and started with the 6 terabyte model here. I didn't really run into a lot of the difficulties of ripping yet, or maybe I just haven't uncovered them since I never ended up watching a lot of the discs. And maybe it's more on the Disney side and some of the content that I don't buy that has those funky structures. But using MakeMKV and ripping them was a pretty smooth process for me, although a little bit time consuming. So
when we talked originally, we had conversated about some of the things that I've made other videos about, like kind of some of the pitfalls of going the physical media route, some of the challenges that you'll inevitably encounter with certain discs and whatnot. And I remember my general advice was go ahead, based on what I was hearing. It's funny, a lot of these sessions become almost kind of like a therapy talk, where it's like listen to a lot of stuff and then give an opinion or give a take, but not necessarily trying to influence or lead anybody anywhere, but like observing, especially where folks maybe are on kind of a steps of this home theater journey, that where in a path where I've gone down that analysis and I made my decision based on this and that. And I remember in the conversation basically saying, like, you're probably going to get the kaleidoscope in the end. So my advice to you would be to get it now. Start with it. But what do you think was you started to go down the route of setting up the servers in that, but what do you think was the catalyst that made you either second guess it or kind of flip back around?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I never really second guessed it because I knew you were right, and I was just fighting it off for some reason. To be honest, I've still ended up buying some discs to get the codes because the D2D is just so beneficial. So then you have it really in 3 formats. So I kind of knew that it was inevitable. I guess, and then seeing the used hardware pricing online, some of the older players was, it wasn't a super expense to get into the Kaleidoscape ecosystem.
Yeah, those used Strato S's are still out there for what, nominally 3,500, 5,500, or probably easily acquirable under 5 if the entry price of the new hardware is off-putting to folks. That's still the best option. We'll see how things change and evolve into next year. But you started thinking to go in the used route, right? And then you kind of pivoted fairly quickly. Actually, you've gone through the fastest Kaleidoscape upgrade cycle, faster than me even. Want to kind of share how that evolved?
Sure. I bought 4 systems in 45 days. I mean, that's pretty insane for someone that was just dipping his toe in the water. But I slipped right down that slope. Yeah, I bought a used system from a dealer, and I ended up effectively trading that in and buying a player and a 6 terabyte new with full warranty. So that was, pretty good opportunity. I filled up the 6 terabyte in probably 4 days after I did all the disc to disc stuff, and was like, oh, this is gonna be a nightmare shuffling content between online and what I can store locally. Fortunately, the dealer was great. I was able to trade that in, got a 22 terabyte just in time to load it up for the primes to be announced. So currently in the process of trying to find a home for that 22 terabyte and have a new prime here that absolutely love. So
yeah, so you victim of timing with regards to kind of buying in just weeks before the prime was announced, but you decided to make the pivot. You have the infrastructure really to take advantage, right, and kind of maximize the prime. Want to talk about that a little bit, kind of like your network service capabilities and stuff?
Yeah, sure. So I own an IT consulting company. I like Ubiquiti quite a bit. I did a lot of wiring. I'd say there's probably 15,000 feet of network cable in this house. So there's Cat 6A everywhere. I've got some 10 gigabit switches. I learned how to terminate fiber optics just out of curiosity. So I have a 6 fiber lines running through the house connecting some of the core back together, including up to the home theater. So I have some 25 gigabit Ethernet. Raleigh is a big tech center, so fortunately serviced by AT&T with up to 5 gig internet speeds. I recently downgraded to 2, but yeah, the Prime's hooked up at 2.5 gigabits, 2 gigabits out to the internet, and I'm seeing pretty much that throughput in movie download times. So the times have almost been cut in half about
from the prior Terra to the Prime Terra, you're saying? Yeah. You what were you had some numbers to quote, right? Because you're measuring them out.
Yeah, I was doing this before we came on here. I copied my history before I reformatted, reset the other device. So here, French Dispatch completed in 5 minutes at 1700 megabits, where it previously was 9 minutes at 868. Ex Machina, 5 minutes at 1700 versus 10 minutes at 848. American Hustle, 6 minutes, 1750 versus 11 at 860. So,
Yeah.
And the download times before were not, like you always say, if you get some popcorn, get your drink, and by the time you're back, you've got the movie anyway. So, I just wanted to, when I was buying in the ecosystem, be the most current hardware, so that if future software versions came out that took advantage of it, I was prepared. So.
Yeah, and that makes sense, especially when you're getting your first establishment in the new device. Always better to try to start with the latest, and build up from there. But that's awesome to hear, like a full on real world corroboration that you feed the Prime with the pipe and the stability of connection to do it. It's basically outperforming its prior model by a factor of 2, essentially, right? Or a function of 2. Yeah. What you mentioned ubiquity. What is like your network topology look like in terms of routers and switches?
You've got a Dream Machine Pro SE as the firewall router. That's connected to an Aggregation Pro switch that has 25 gigabit and 10 gigabit ports on that. That feeds into all the other switches in the house, which I have a 48 port enterprise, so a PoE at 2.5 gigabit. I have a 24 port XG, which is all 10 gigabit. And through some DAC cables, I'm aggregating the links between some of these. So some pretty fast throughput times between the switches. I just linked through fiber an upstairs switch for some cameras. And that was a 24 port enterprise. So, and then here in the theater, I just put an 8 port enterprise switch specifically for the 2.5 gig for the Kaleidoscape, and ran some fiber up here as well. So the fiber surprisingly is not difficult to do. So it kind of sounds ridiculous, and it is, but it's not difficult. So,
yeah, that's one of the areas that I probably need to start thinking about where my next evolution is going to go, because I've been pretty minimalistic, I would say, in the network setup. When we did our house, we're talking 2012, 2013, it was wired, so there's no fiber. We pulled a lot of coax, and we pulled a lot of a mix, I guess, of Cat 5A and Cat 6. And I'd imagine that, like, through a certain period of homes, there's more people probably have like that spec of wiring than newer ones. So I'd be curious your take on, like, what with a network infrastructure at that level, Cat 5A, Cat 6, is there a limit to what that's going to be able to do, would you say?
Yeah.
Or
I think people have had some mixed results with Cat 5, but I think the shorter runs, especially of 6, will sustain 10 gigabit.
okay.
I thought the spec for 6A was 25 or 40, I think. But I bought a client testing tool the other day because I was terminating some stuff, and it doesn't seem that any of the runs here are more than 100 feet. So certainly 2.5, which is probably the sweet spot on the hardware price points. I think is manageable with all that.
So if somebody was building out or specing out a network system today, what would you recommend, or what would you have them pull? Is there a minimum cat wire, or you're doing more fiber optic, but is the fiber optic too more about like establishing kind of trunks between zones?
Yeah, the
And you're
fiber
not.
is, besides my desktop, and look, I like to do some scuba diving, and I have an underwater video camera and video editing, and a Mac Studios in the near future as well. So besides some of those video editing workstations at 25 gig, yeah, it's all backbone more or less. So
Okay.
and this is more of an experiment hobby, like it's totally practical. So,
but what guidance would you give to somebody like looking to upgrade their network infrastructure? Any tips or recommendations?
yeah, I looked at the different wire specs before building this house, and 7 and 8 were available, but 6A, I mean, all of the patch panels and other accessories needed for those other wire specs, as well as they weren't. I think 8 wasn't fully settled at the time, so 6A was, I thought, more than enough. The good news in this house, I have access in the crawl space in the attic, so and I have pictures of all the open walls like you do, which is like that's the biggest deal. My best advice would be run conduits to hard to, like Smurf tube, or to hard to reach places, and also I put a vertical chase from the attic down to the crawl space. I would say that the ability to get things where you want them in the future is, probably almost more important than the wire, but I think 6A is a pretty safe bet for the time being.
Do you have a favorite, if say somebody wasn't going into pro or enterprise level equipment that you like to use, or that you would recommend for more kind of a residential purpose, in terms of like network equipment brand, switch brand, router brand, stuff like that?
Yeah, I can't say that I do. I think I'm all in with Ubiquiti Unify. We don't use that in our clients. I mean, we use different gear. I think just some of the VLAN stuff in Ubiquiti isn't reliable enough. We use their access points quite a bit, and that was something I did in the house. Was I think I have 8 access points throughout here for 6E. So yeah, I don't know that I have another preferred brand.
Just want to roll
lived
back.
in much smaller spaces prior to this, so it's like, I was looking at 8 ports or 12 ports. I mean, I went from 1,300 square feet to a bit larger.
Yeah, it's fun getting to scale up and spec stuff out. I definitely, if I could go back and kind of gut our house a bit, there would definitely be some things that I would do different, and we certainly didn't do enough conduit type runs. Thinking more about like needing to really change more cables out in the future, and even like hitting a limit in some zones where like I really like to even have 6 cat lines instead of 4 potentially, in order to be able to just do everything discreetly and not have to put switches in remote zones or whatever, where they're maybe not the easiest to put in.
I was really surprised the builder included 6 network connections in the house when I built it. And I was like, oh, that's they're like, no, everything's wireless these days. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you for your expertise. I will pass, and give me a couple weeks in here. But yeah, the conduits I think are probably the most helpful, right? So, and it's so easy to do when the walls are open.
Cool. Just want to acknowledge some comments. Going back a little bit, a couple folks also giving the B&W praise. 800s, 800 D4s there. Awesome. I always thought that those would be an end game level speaker for me. Just kind of went in some different directions, especially with the architectural thought. A couple other shout outs. Rob, welcome Rob. A bunch of the regulars are here. Some Kaleidoscape discussion. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any questions. little bit about the SSDs. So, yeah, Ren actually, I think he's got the big SSD, Tera, which is pretty awesome. Sub 4 minute downloads with the infrastructure to serve it. I will be I think I alluded earlier. I will be making some content soon, kind of more about the choice between the hard disk drive and the solid state drives, and kind of giving some guidance and pointers and recommendations about like choosing your servers in the Kaleidoscape platform. I need to kind of finish flushing out the outline. Actually, going to vet out some of the recommendations um, through Kaleidoscape as well.
I'm really curious in those results, and obviously this is the channel to be on for all the Kaleidoscape data. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I try to definitely corner the YouTube on that topic.
I wouldn't have bought Kaleidoscape without knowing you and finding this channel, because there just wasn't enough information. You know, I don't think the dealers do it justice, giving you the details of what the experience will be like. So
yeah, so we were chit-chatting before we went live there a little bit, talking about that. Maybe you want to expand on that a little bit more. Like, how do you feel it changes your theater, and what does it do that either kind of like surprised you or made you feel like, okay, yeah, I'm glad I did this?
yeah, so I worked with Epic in New Jersey, and the first thing he said was the audio is going to be the biggest difference. And I do feel, and I can almost say it's objective because my family has commented on it and they have no idea what's coming from where. It's just more immersive and a higher quality audio. And I think that's been the biggest change. Now I'm, like I said before, in the honeymoon phase a little, so maybe that plays in, but really 4 people have commented on it now and noticed. So it just feels different. And I think I said it before. There's a logical side of your brain and an emotional side, and we all look at it through the logical side. This, I think, K is an emotional experience, and I think once you feel it, it's you'll know.
Yeah, people really respond. I found that don't know of it and have never seen it, because I brought a number of folks through this room here for demos or whatever, as we've had people over, different folks from different elements of our lives that are certainly not home theater enthusiasts by any means, and we come down here and it's the go-to device that we use predominantly. Like, essentially in our theater, we use the Kaleidoscape. If the content is available there, then if it's not, then we'll stream it or whatever. I'm still happy using the Apple TV. But demoing stuff and showing stuff off, I'll always pull it up and I'll watch people, because they're like, they don't know what they're looking at first. Like, they're just expecting to see like a Roku interface or like something along those lines. And then you pull up the KUI and it just goes right to it. You're right there. It's so smooth, it's elegant, the way it presents and everything. And to me, I really noticed that it kind of resonates with folks. And then eventually you get the question of like, what is this? Like, what are you playing these movies on? It's like, oh, okay, let me tell you about it. So did you have that experience with the family as well?
I mean, they more come and we kind of have agreed on what we're going to watch. So it's a little bit of a different process. Otherwise we'd sit here forever, just looking at scrolling through movies. But, the front end UI combined with the website, combined with accessing, the web UI on the device, along with the mobile app. I mean, that seamless integration, I think, is one of the biggest benefits, is that you can shop a sale on your phone while you're somewhere else. You can start downloads. I mean, it really is tied together very nicely. They've done a great job there.
You've been doing a lot of disc to digital as well, right?
Yeah, that was probably, back to your original question, that was probably what changed things the most, is when you did your disc to digital video. And, a lot of the discs that I purchased, I could leverage. And man, so many of those, $4.92. It's I kind of, you definitely influenced me on how you've built out your iTunes library. You have a physical disc collection and the Kaleidoscape, and there definitely is a lot of overlap, but like Ronin isn't available 4K in Kaleidoscape yet. I have it on Blu-ray. So I didn't feel as bad, investing in all of those different avenues. But yeah, disc to disc is huge, and I actually broke down some numbers. I mean, you can pretty much predict by studio what the disc to disc price is going to be, and
Yep.
like I said, at $5, it's a deal.
Yeah, I'll buy movies all day long at $5 on either iTunes or K. It makes it, having the patience to wait can sometimes be tough when it comes to maybe newer things to go on sale, but I'm so far behind in my backlog anyway. Most things I can afford to wait.
As long as we're talking about pricing, just in case anyone is interested, I've purchased 220 movies, and the average cost is $8.41. 137 of those 220 were disc to digital, and the average of those was $6.28. The non-disc to discs are averaging those 83 titles just under $12. So all in all, between sales and disc to digital, the movies are not crazy expensive if you're just a little careful about how you do it. So, through buying those systems, I ended up with $1,100 in credits. I spent about $1,900 in movies. Like those credits really helped get a lot of content.
Yeah. I think the strongest force to library build is the sales, and we're coming up on not too far away from now. Christmas is around the corner, and Black Friday, usual Thanksgiving sales, Halloween sales. History has been good in recent years with regards to Kaleidoscape and end of year promotions. So hopefully that continues, and anybody library building will be ready to open the wallet and spend some money. But you can get a lot of content for less. But and the sales, the bundles, and all that stuff,
Well, even the
adds up.
weekly sales, I mean, you just build out a wish list, and when those wish list items come up on sale, I forget what I bought earlier today, but I thought I got some either $25 or $35 titles for like maybe eight or $9. And the content sets are really helpful as well. So, that with just to digital, I think was what pushed me over the edge.
Yeah, right now even actually there was a pretty big confluence of sales that just hit. Where you had messaged about Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is on sale at the moment. There's a Pixar super bundle, so throw all the movie, 4 or more movies, and the price gets low. So these are the times when you're migrating in to the ecosystem. When those sales pop up, and you want a library build, you got to jump on them. And then this is the second time they've done this recently as well. Just in the recent past that I've noticed, and I think it's something that we may see more, is this what they're calling like the flash sale. They specifically are now kind of titling it the flash sale, where a relatively new movie is pretty well reduced. So Flash was the first flash sale. I don't know if that was pun intended or whatnot. But Transformers: Rise of the Beasts is $14.99 already. So maybe an argument could be made about the quality of those films needing to be price reduced sooner than later. But still, that's the way to go. Julius had a question about your audio. Did you set up ARC on your AVM 70 yet? And if so, how was that gone?
I didn't run into any problems. I have run it twice now. I added a mono price sub just to hold me over until I get some proper subs in here. I also had hooked up with Nick Rich at Audio Advice, and since I bought the hardware through Audio Advice, and he's been helping me with ARC as you've reviewed it a little bit too. But until I get the acoustic panels and the subs, and I have a Salamander rack coming here next week, I'm going to end up running it again. But yeah, it's really been no problem. It's quite intuitive, easy to do, and interpreting the graphs and the results are where I probably need the support. So
I was going to ask, did you make any did you use it to the point where you were starting to tweak at all yet, or just ran it and took the stock
Just ran
results?
it, let the AVM run the ARC settings, and but like I said, consulting with you and Nick is my next step to get some acoustic treatments in here once I get the screen settled. So that's probably next on the agenda.
Yeah, definitely. As you're making changes, your room will still be in a bit of a evolutionary state. So until more of the elements get fixed, you kind of won't arrive at a final state probably for a little while yet.
The room's a perfect rectangular, but there's probably, I don't know, a 4x4 nook that enters into the game room that this is off of. So I'm kind of curious what the graph will show and what people's comments will be on how that's affecting the acoustics. So,
what were you shopping or considering for treatments?
I don't even know yet. That's not something I've really looked into. Obviously with Audio Advice's assistance, I'll go with them. So,
how have you felt working with them? Did they source pretty much everything except for the K?
So the monoprice stuff obviously came direct. The AVM and the projector came from them. The Panasonic I picked up. It's I think a UB9000 I picked up. I forget, on Amazon or something. I had some credits. Yeah. So I live in a new neighborhood. There's probably 75 homes here. I would say there's probably like 3 Audio Advice trucks a day in our neighborhood. They do quite a bit of work here. But being a do-it-yourselfer, I really wanted to research product and I think they're more built for a one-stop solution, which is probably what a lot of people want. Probably not the people that are watching this, but I think I don't fit their structure, I guess is probably the appropriate way to put it.
Okay. And yeah, they definitely, I would say, they've got an interesting business model set up for sure. And obviously I promote them quite heavily on the channel because I honestly think they've been a really great kind of partner, and they've really been in support of kind of elevating the hobby overall, I think, with the events and the things that they're doing. Yeah, I guess there's all kinds of customers at different levels, people that need the whole shebang, and people that kind of want to buy the equipment and go the DIY route.
Look, everybody in there is knowledgeable. I've had great customer service from them. The showroom here in Raleigh is awesome. Like, I've nothing but good things to say about Audio Advice. I think I just was kind of going at it bit by bit. I mean, I still am. So, just I think I was a little out of sync with their sales process.
All right, just looking back through the comments here. Any other folks talking about sales, content sets, and all that? More Kaleidoscape stuff. Cool. Yeah, I think this was fun. Anything else that you think you've learned, or wisdoms or lessons, takeaways from kind of going through the process of this that folks might benefit from hearing, that are doing projects or conceiving of doing projects in the home theater area?
I without shamelessly plugging, your assistance and consulting, I think there are resources out there. Obviously, this is a hobby and there's a lot of peer interaction, but the amount of time that I've saved by just going to, I guess, effectively subject matter experts was really helpful. And also, I think made me a lot happier with my solution, in that I got good information, I got good advice, and I think I pieced together the right components to get me a solution that I'm enjoying every day. And that's really the point. So
cool. That was kind of an amalgam of talking with Audio Advice, with Audioholics, and with me. Any other sources of info that you found useful?
No, those were the 3 primary sources. So yeah, Audio Advice was very helpful. Then I talked to Gene about some of the amplification, and you with the content, and just kind of approached it in a step-by-step process. So I'm really curious to see. I mean, we've talked about it enough. The software upgrades or features that are coming with K, or that I assume are coming.
Yeah.
New player. I'm really curious, in your opinion, do you think we'll see closer to release content or simultaneous studio content on Kaleidoscape?
We were starting to get closer to that towards the thicker part of COVID. Now I think the studios are kind of pulling those windows back a little bit. I think K still generally exists as the earliest access to the highest fidelity content, closer to theatrical release window as you can get, or ahead of physical media if the physical media release is coming. But full on day and date, I think, is something that I understand Hollywood is struggling with a little bit. Again, that we were getting real close to, but then business ramifications and whatnot have almost made them kind of pull back on that. So we'll see. Real true day and date debut, I think, as well, would have to come with another level of like pricing structure, especially for like the biggest films. And if it were to be offered at a more type of like ubiquitous level than kind of maybe point movies here and there, where the window gets small, or a studio opts to do it because of whatever business value they saw or didn't see in a given piece of content. But we'll see how that goes.
Like, you see Barbie, that is basically just out of theaters now, just coming to K. It's been promoted for a while. It's $45.
Yep.
Yet Oppenheimer hasn't even been mentioned on the platform yet. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think it just depends on the studio. And even sometimes too, nowadays, like also on the directors and the actors that have the stroke to kind of control it and dictate how things are going to happen with the things that they make, or the productions that they're involved in, like Tom Cruise and people at his level, right? They get to influence kind of how their stuff is managed and released, and so on. I don't know. Barbie's Warner. Oppenheimer, I don't know who has the studio rights, or who is the studio behind Oppenheimer. But even within K, like some studios will put the content up very quickly in pre-order. Some will lag. And I think it can even vary within a studio, release to release, again, possibly because of like who who plays a part in making those choices. Ren mentioned Universal, if that's Oppenheimer.
Yep.
I'm trying to think if there was another instance of another Universal movie I can think of that either was like quickly pre-orderable and whatnot on the platform. But I feel like they might be one of the laggards. I feel like Paramount and Warner content turns up really quick. It's there and announced fairly quickly. Is who had the Ninja Turtles, the new Ninja Turtles movie? So just looking on the site, yeah, that was Paramount. So that one came up really quick as well. But if we look in premium and pre-order, in terms of like who's in here, it's Paramount with Mission Impossible. Now there's NBC Universal, the My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. Warner, Equalizer is Sony. Well, there actually is a pretty decent mix in here. Universal's in there with The Lost Weekend. Gran Turismo is Sony. Blue Beetles, Warner. So I guess I can't make a determination based on the sample size that we have available to us right now.
Yeah, I get the studios have a foothold and need to have their revenue stream as well, but I don't think I'll go back to a movie theater I don't. I mean, I don't want to say ever again, but I mean, it would be a rare occurrence. So it's not really a competing audience, I guess. And
Yeah.
that's
Yep. I agree. It would take a lot to get me out to a theater. Um, Even the family, like the last movie we went out and watched was Super Mario, and I don't remember what was going on that weekend. We were just looking for a reason to go out of the house, and at that point, you couldn't watch it at home yet anyway. Um, and I remember suggesting it to everybody. We were kind of debating what to do. It was early afternoon, and I figured like, oh, like the kids will be all over this. Like, we'll go get dinner, grab something kind of like quick along the way. We'll go see Mario, and they're like, we don't want to go. We don't want to go to the theater. I'm like, what? It's like, we don't need to. Like, okay. Like, wow,
yeah. You just wait 2 months and watch it in the privacy of your own home. So
exactly. Yep. Yeah. So,
have you noticed the iTunes sales corresponding with the Kaleidoscape sales for content for movies?
I think there is. I think there is some correlation there because my suspicion there, and I say this with no like insider business knowledge about how it goes, but I would suspect that the studios generally control pricing structures, and when like any store puts something on sale like that, or any digital storefront holding content, I have to believe like in the background it's done in concert with the content holder. So and a lot of times like it'll be done in a timely manner. For example, like the new Star Wars film comes out, the Star Wars movies are all going to go on sale across all platforms, and like that's got to be Disney with a marketing plan or a marketing program, I think, behind the scenes. So in a lot of cases, I have to think that like the studios decide to put some swath of content um, out for out for sale on digital platforms at the same time, and that ends up affecting iTunes and Vudu and Kaleidoscape in some cases, not necessarily in all cases, because iTunes sales tend to be like I don't feel they're very themed. There's just always a whole bunch of stuff on sale. Every Tuesday it changes over, right? And it's like hundreds of pieces of content on sale every week. And sometimes there's like sub themes to that, but otherwise I feel like a lot of it ends up being week to week, generally pretty random. But I feel like K tends to uh, theme their stuff. Like they did the summer concert season sale specifically at a time where they'll kind of like find a reason to put similar stuff together. Of course, they're making a liar out of me right now because the big sale in the store is just literally titled 7.99 sale. Um, so there's a whole bunch of movies that are marked down to 7.99, but I think there might still be some similar through lines to this in terms of like there's a lot of Paramount and Warner. So I don't know. They work on their programs, I'm sure, and they're working in concert with folks at the studios that hold the rights and the approvals to mark certain things down at certain times. And um, but
Yeah, I didn't know Apple was Tuesdays. I mean, obviously Kaleidoscape's Tuesdays and Fridays. That's interesting. Tuesday must be an industry weekend or something. But
yeah,
I'm noticing I'm buying a lot of $5 movies on iTunes, and then a week later I'm buying them like Nice Guys. I bought Nice Guys for $5 on iTunes. I just bought it today. It was $25 marked down to the 7.99 sale. So there definitely is a strong correlation between the
yep,
sales.
yeah. iTunes does flip pricing every day. The best tool that I found for this, let me I can do this as a share. Just let me make sure before I share this that I'm not sharing anything that I don't want to share. Um, is here we go. So if I add this back in, we go over here. So interestingly enough, like Blu-ray.com is one of the best places to follow iTunes sales. So if you go to Blu-ray.com and you go to any of their sections, Blu-ray.com doesn't only track physical media; they track Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft, Vudu, and so on. And like I this is like a daily web visit for me, essentially, where you come to Blu-ray.com, you go to iTunes, you go to deals by day, and they literally like are constantly analyzing the store and sweeping it. So here's your correlation, right? Kaleidoscape right now has the Pixar Super bundle, and there's a bunch of Pixar movies on sale also in iTunes at the moment. So there has to be some kind of promotional aspect going on behind the scenes there. But you can filter this, right? So you can look at only 4K, you can look at only bundles, you can look at TV, and so on. And they chart all this stuff as well, which is really cool. Let me zoom this in a little bit if that helps. So here you go, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. And if you mouse over these little charts, they give you the pricing histories. So you can kind of see like, okay, is this the cheapest this thing has ever been? Maybe I should go ahead and grab it now. Has it been a long time since it's been on sale, right? Or, is this something that goes on sale all of the time? So I find this like incredibly useful. You can see the frequency too. Usually, like if you miss something on sale on iTunes, just have some patience, right? And it'll go on sale again or soon enough. So there's the brand new Ninja Turtles, just marked down by $5 for its first markdown. Trying to look for something older. Here's like Cars. It has a longer history. So there you go, all the way back to 2013. You can see those dips, right? The cheapest this movie has ever been is $7.99. The general other pricing floor has been about $9.99. So that's pretty much the floor price for Pixar content, except for that one day back in June of 2021. So if you're not using this, anybody out there, again, this is one of my daily visits. Pretty much every day I go to Kaleidoscape and I see what's been added to the store. And then particularly on Tuesdays, what new sales and stuff, like the larger weekly sales have changed over. And then I'll visit this every day as well. K doesn't only change pricing on Tuesday, is similar, but that's still when the big price reductions tend to flip or expire, and then new promotions come along as well.
And it seems to kind of flow. I mean, starting Monday, into Tuesday, a little later Tuesday, same thing on Friday. Like it keeps it entertaining because you're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? It's not just like bang, there they all are. So,
yep, yeah, there could be something new to buy almost every day. Just checking comments one more time. Make sure if anybody has questions for Michael about his system, about networking concepts, and all that, definitely put them in the chat. Flag them so that I see them. There's a bunch of other discussion going on here as well.
Yeah, Julie has asked what my end game is. Yeah, I don't know that I have a good answer to that right now because having skipped the whole kind of high def content generation, getting to where I am now. Granted, this is a bit of a smaller, tighter room. With the equipment that I have, I'm very happy, and I'm just starting to really enjoy and appreciate it. And also, I go back to thinking, okay, was B&W the right speaker choice? You're a big Focal guy, right? And I haven't really figured out. I've just always been B&W, and I haven't really figured out, okay, what's higher end with speakers, processing, where do I go? So I'm sure there will be upgrades in the future, but I also wonder how much I can put in this room. And until I get into a new space, that may dictate some of it. So I think more to come, but right now I'm really happy with the research I've done and where I've ended up. And not, I mean, everything's relative, but Like I got the AVM on sale for $3,000. The Kaleidoscape stuff between how the trade-ins ended up working out was fairly reasonable. The monolift amp was like $2,500. The projectors have come down in price. So really, really worked out well.
Awesome. I was just trying to solve something in the background here. Folks were saying my screen was black when I tried to share. I think Edge is blocking something. So I apologize for that. But I might not be able to show a screen share. But again, go to Blu-ray.com and navigate to iTunes, and you can find the details there. Another question: are you a gamer? I haven't mentioned a gaming source.
Yeah. So by hobby, I'm a pilot. I have I'm an authorized dealer for next level racing hardware. So I have a simulator chair with motion and VR, and I'm just building another computer to do some racing sim. I'm an F1 fan, so I also like DCS. So as much as I'm not playing that now, I plan to get into it. I just bought a PS5 for downstairs because my nephew being 4, man, the controls have changed on those things quite a bit. So I need to get up to speed. I can't have him beating me in FIFA, at 7 years old. So just starting to kind of to get back into some of that stuff. And I think PS5 now supports Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, yep.
I also have a 512 space down in the living room. So that's where the PS5 is, and it's on an LG 77 TV that's going to be an 83 G3 soon. Yeah, more to come there. But the simulator chair, I'm really excited. I have a 4090 video card downstairs, a 7950 X3D processor, and a new motherboard with 10 gig networking on the way. So that shouldn't be too far in the future.
Oh yeah, so you're hooked up. There's rumors. The 5090 rumors are starting to float.
God, the inventory on the 4000 series was unavailable forever. Still to an extent. So
yeah, I don't think we'll see the 5090 until next fall. I couldn't imagine they bring out that card out this fall. Next holidays would make more sense, especially if that's when we get the next console iterations and whatnot, so they can just come out and summarily stomp the PS5 Pro with 6x the GPU power.
Yeah, I haven't seen Stanfield here in the comments, but I had some conversations with him on the Kscape owners forum, which if you aren't there and have any interest, that by far is the community to be involved in, especially if you're buying hardware or looking for dealers, whatever. But he had made a comment to me about DTSX being superior to Atmos, and I threw on Ex Machina the other day just to kind of do that comparison, and I think there's something to that. Maybe it's the title, I don't know, but have you noticed any difference?
I don't think that I have. I think in general, historically, I think DTX has just ran kind of maybe a little hotter, and has been a little more active in the mix. And so I think that's maybe historically why people have a preference to say that. I remember back in when before really DTSX and Atmos came along, I feel like more folks generally preferred to use DTS up mixing to go from something lower to 7-point channels, because it did more. And even maybe in the earlier days of immersive audio as well, people liked using the DTS X up mixer because it tends to be a little more active. So that's maybe a little hearsay. I don't think I have any necessary preference, or that maybe I don't pay enough attention to say that I do. I usually do always check when we start a movie to see what's playing, what the format is, to know. But that's probably as much attention as I pay.
There's
there, but
a nuance of K that I just can't get my head around is that, and I've mentioned it to you. I've actually started building a list. Some of the HD titles will have
Yes.
Atmos soundtracks, whereas the HD version will have UHD will have like a 5.1 soundtrack, and I can't understand why
Yeah.
that audio source doesn't get matched up with the video content.
Yeah, I don't know. That it's another, like, I think background business process issue that needs to get sorted. You kind of missed what might be some of the dark ages a few years ago, where there was quite a bit of actually a couple of specific studios wholesale were not providing Dolby Atmos in the K store, and they were putting Atmos in their discs. And so that really was a big deficiency, but it got solved. A bit of like a combination, I guess, of a business and a process issue. But now we get Atmos from all the studios, and that stuff was kind of put to rest. But I think that this situation where the DTSX in the HD download and not in the 4K download is a bummer, and that's kind of like it's become a bit of the new replacement for the old Atmos concern. So I hope they're working on that as well. It's silly that the highest video fidelity, viewing option is not just absolutely automatically and 100% paired with the best audio to go with it. But
And what you think is
it's a
frame
quirk.
by frame equivalency, right? Like the time coding of the movie and the frames should be theoretically the same. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To be involved, or to see the actual engineering elements of like what the studio gives them and what ability they have to process and how they process it. Like there's got to be some just like really frustrating tooling or process deficiency at play that I'm sure that they would like to be able to resolve as well. That was kind of going back to some of the Atmos stuff years ago, was more or less behind that from what they had talked about and what they shared, working with the studios to kind of fix the processes that were holding some things back. Ultimately, maybe I would guess it's probably the same situation for that stuff, and it's not it's not a situation that the store and the content is in by their choice. It's got to be another factor. So
I will say,
I'm curious. Go ahead.
So, American Made was one of the titles that has that, and I noticed it the other day. And I downloaded the HD version, and I'll say the Kaleidoscape HD content is very good. So, probably not much of a sacrifice, to get the better sound, even if it is a little lower video quality.
Yeah, I guess you can see where your loyalties lie. Do you watch the HD copy for the DTS mix, or do you watch the 4K copy and take the 7.1? So I would probably watch the 4K copy and use the upmixer and the 7.1 audio, because I don't know. I think I fashion myself a little more of a video file than an audio file, but not everybody would take the same side of that coin, I guess. I guess while we're on the topic, any what else, like what would you say would be kind of your top 3 wants in the Kaleidoscape platform?
Oh God, I watch that thread on the forum and think about that. One thing that I wish that would be easy to implement is, they have the UHD icon on the movie posters. I wish that the Atmos would appear there as well, especially when browsing through the title list in the UI. I wish Atmos would be denoted there as well. Yeah, I'd have to. I don't have any off the top of my head, but I definitely, there's features every day that you think of, but that list is so personalized and endless that, like I said, overall, I'm really happy with the integration of how all the user interfaces tie together. So
Most folks probably don't use it. I know I don't really necessarily tend to use it because I do my purchasing and my management on browser or on app away from this room. But go if you haven't gone in there, go into the store on device, right, on Strato, and look at the cards, the movie info cards that pop up, both when you're on like a movie wall in the store, and then when you click on a film, the whole pop-up menu. And there's some pretty significant differences between those pop-ups in the store and those same UIs in the library view. And in my opinion, the store cards are far superior. And I've made that feedback a bunch of times. It's like, this is, I stated it as well, I think, in a variety of videos. It's like, geez, like even if you just made the store UIs be the library UIs, it would be very nice, and that would actually bring some of that iconography and additional information to those overlays. But we'll see. I think ultimately the path forward that we're going to see with K is that like 2023 was really a huge year, really a banner year after the management changes and the other things over the last couple of years where things were maybe a little quiet. 2023 has brought us so much stuff, and I think 2024 the pump is primed. We've now seen what a next generation server brings. We can only guess what a next generation player, looking at what's in the next generation server gives us maybe some ideas that could be in a next generation player. And once the whole platform has been changed over to faster processors, more memory, and all these things, and running downloads the way they are, I think it will open up the opportunity to develop more. Like you had commented earlier about wanting to have the Prime to be on the latest hardware. I think having a hardware evolution come through the platform to the servers and then inevitably to the players is going to be what they springboard off of to do some really interesting things next year.
I think you had mentioned in a video earlier this year, maybe last, that there was a new product manager maybe at Kaleidoscape, or maybe it was a development. Was that the catalyst part of this, or do you think it was in the works well before?
So I think that there's been a lot of ideas historically, and then the management change over at the CEO level, and then through the management team, and then there was actually a couple two changeovers in like the engineering lead. Tom was kind of in and out in a relatively short period of time, and then now James is in, and so I think that's all of that stuff is settled, and I'm sure a complete changeover of management at any company is going to kind of slow some things down, as maybe some ideas or some things that had been in process get reevaluated, and maybe some things continue, some things are halted, new things are brought in or realigned in certain ways. And I think we can kind of attribute that to maybe a little bit more of the quiet period of like whatever that was, 2022-ish, maybe 2021, 22. I'm not sure how long it's actually been. I think it has been 2021-ish, or late even 2021, I think, is when Talo came in and they changed it over. So we'll be entering the third year, 2024, of his tenure at the company. And so I guess it's not out of the question that it takes a good 12 to 18 months to change over leadership and get things really moving in whatever direction it's going to be set.
What year did you enter the Kaleidoscape?
Ooh, I'm trying to remember if I had it. I think I had it before we built this theater room.
Were you there for the bankruptcy?
No, it was after that. It was after those troubles.
Because man, what a difference! Like where things are today, the amount of new hardware that's coming out, which will only provide used hardware, which I have in a box right next to me. I mean, I was waiting for Apple and Infuse, based on all of your content to be my
Mhm.
solution. Obviously, I drank the Kool-Aid, but probably couldn't be in a better position with Kaleidoscape. I mean, the amount of hardware that's going to be out there now is just going to be incredible, I think. And a great platform, new changes coming. We've seen the server, maybe there's a player, maybe new software. Like, I'm really excited.
Yep. Yeah, I think 2024 will be huge. So I'm just looking back through some prior uh, purchasing history. In 2018 is when I bought in. After having really evaluated it for quite a while, probably a good 12 to 18 months before then, I was really thinking hard. I'm not sure actually when the Strato. I probably really started thinking about it more in earnest after the Strato had already been released. I remember going around to some home theater shops in the area to kind of really check it out and stuff like that. But I finally spent money and bought in 2018 Strato S off of eBay, used one.
So now that I have the 22 Prime, I'm trying to unload the Compact Terra 22 that I have. But if I do end up deciding to keep that, that will seamlessly integrate storage wise on the network.
Yep, yep, absolutely, no problems with that. Basically, K sees what all of the servers that are resident, all the servers and players that are resident essentially in one household represent one system, and they will work. They will work completely seamlessly with each other. So, and you don't set up anything as well. They'll prioritize kind of the better, faster storage. And even if you have a mix of older stuff that's like HD only, like if you had an Alto, it'll try to put things in the best places for it. There is one piece of guidance, so spoiler alert for the video that I'll have coming up, is that they don't recommend um, going over basically 4 servers in a single system. And that has to do with like kind of the scalability of the um, indexing and communication and whatnot that they have to do with each other on the network. And so that was one of the pieces of guidance that was recommended to me.
What a problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you need 288s to hold the entirety of the store, so I guess you can get away with 2 if you want to drop 50 grand and then buy all that content.
Yeah, and other players in my future, I'm kind of just hedging to see if anything happens with the player side hardware. But I'd like to pair one with the LG, especially if Dolby in the future. So,
Yep. Yeah, I think I'd probably follow the same suit, and depending on what comes, um, and just separately zone the house rather than doing the 2 zone sharing. But we'll see how it shakes out. I don't really tend to use it too much in the living room. Um, Probably more for filming than actually for watching. Um, but there have been times where we've used it for a movie or something in the living room just because we didn't, whatever. I guess we were feeling too lazy to come downstairs. Yeah, Sammy's commenting about the Movies Anywhere integration. Yeah, I would love it. We would all love that. I'd really love to see Movies Anywhere get some new momentum established unto itself. Honestly, get the other studios and some other content holders that they never onboarded and do something more. I don't. Yeah, MA is one of those weird things that came along with a lot of promise and like did a lot of stuff in its first year or so, and then is just really stagnated. since then. That's kind of a weird one, but yeah, I'd rather buy movies once, and I would completely be happy with buying my movies on, well, actually, I almost renege on what I was going to say. I was going to say I'd be completely happy buying my movies on Kaleidoscape and having them port to Apple. But then the reality, actually, though, if you do that, is the next time Apple decides to upgrade quality, you wouldn't get it for free. You'd have to rebuy. So this is one of the things that we've talked about a bunch, and I think I've made comment videos about as well. If you're going to build an iTunes library, it really behooves you future hedging your bet to buy from Apple rather than porting, because we don't know what the future might hold.
We're so early in 4K with titles. I mean, are you talking about an 8K upgrade, or are you talking about just higher bitrate content that you may not appreciate on Apple or may not be entitled to on Apple?
I think it could be either one, quite honestly. So it could be higher resolution down the road, which would probably be further down the road than maybe we need to care too much about right now. But I wouldn't put it out there that like there could be a whatever they dub it, like a high fidelity, high res pro tier of content that you get grandfathered, right, for stuff you've already bought, but could result in a separate purchase option. But that's predicated on them actually choosing to offer it, and as of yet, they haven't seen fit to do it. So,
I mean, between disc to digital, and codes in Apple or buying $5 sales, for essentially $30 in many cases, you can have it across the board. And
yeah,
that's kind of been my approach. Although lately I find myself just going to K and making it easy on myself. So.
Yeah, no, there's definitely is power in having that's the most effective way to have all three things. For most films is to still buy the disc, redeem the code, and do the D2D, and you kind of get the whole shebang.
Yeah, I have 7 Apple TVs. I used to travel quite a bit, so being able to download stuff to iPads, like I just the Apple side of it, I still appreciate. So
going back to your previous comment as well, here Ezra made a comment. Mixed feeling about Atmos on PS5. We've got a 7.2.6 Atmos system, and a lot of dialogue in PS5 games comes from the Atmos speakers. That's pretty wild. I don't have a PS5 myself to test it, but I guess if they're not natively rendering sound by virtue of like objects from the game engine, and they're taking maybe the 7 channels of audio that the game engine creates, and they're really just kind of doing their own upmix. Maybe their upmixer is having some failure modes that they need to work out. I think we just had the big Xbox news leak, or roadmap leak this week as well, which I think is pretty interesting. I probably should do some kind of video about that, but I'm prepared to be pretty disappointed in like what the next Xbox, or the mid-gen Xbox, is going to be. So I think Sony's going to win a lot of gamer hearts and minds in the next year if they actually make a real pro console with enhanced performance and fidelity, and Microsoft releases the same box in a cylinder with a whole bunch of upgrades, but no additional GPU or CPU power. But the other interesting part is the fact that like they're kind of embracing their all digital future, and that there won't be a disk drive element to the Xbox. So you're going all in here, essentially, right? Owning digital content with Kaleidoscape, establishing and growing digital content libraries with Apple. So obviously you feel comfortable buying and owning digitally. And really, right, would you say you're buying the disc just as a facilitation of getting access on these other platforms, not not because you're afraid of digital ownership? How do you feel about digital ownership?
Yeah, I don't really have any concerns. I think Apple and Kaleidoscape, especially now, are so stable that I just don't really have much concern about that. I mean, God, if Apple were to yank back movie rights, it would, it'd be huge. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't concern me at all. They just sit in a pile, and except for like I mentioned, the few cases where there's a 4K disc and I don't have that on K, maybe I'll end up
Yep.
watching that. So.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely a collection of content that I still keep on a Synology that is really not available in K, or in some cases not even in iTunes as well. Um,
Could you see that? Do you have concerns about digital rights ownership?
no, no, I don't. It cracks it, so I say it cracks me up. Like folks, some folks are very, very, very concerned about it, and I don't know. And I think some people are concerned for different reasons. I think some people are very concerned about things just being taken away. Some people are very concerned about ideas of like censorship and content being changed when you from its original intent or its original presentation, and if you own it digitally, you have no ability to control that. Um, I don't know. To me, those things are for the entirety of the content that's out there. I consider those things to be pretty minor. And I would say in general, like you just said, it boils down to like buying stuff from companies that you feel pretty decent about in the long run. I wouldn't have built uh I wouldn't have felt comfortable building a large movie library with like um who's the other, I'm forgetting them now. The one that went down between like Fandango and Voodoo, like Best Buy, the Cinema Now, like you could pretty much tell who the trailing um offerings were, right? And avoid those and stick with like Amazon and Apple and companies like that, Microsoft perhaps. I have no fear about buying digital games with Sony um, and Microsoft and whatnot. So it all boils down to just picking the right content, people. The only thing that I buy really anymore in any real capacity physical is books. Um, and even that's very specific to certain things.
Yeah, my biggest concern in my content library would be the Movies Anywhere affiliation with Apple breaking somehow and losing the titles that I've received via codes, that are
Mm,
flowing into iTunes. And if that happened,
yeah.
okay, whatever. Still have the disc, I have the rip, and it is what it is. But
I think if that came to pass, if Movies Anywhere went down, I would think that they would do like it would be published with a date. It's like after September 30th, whatever, 2023, Movies Anywhere is kaput. Um, and rights will no longer port. But once the system disconnects at that point, I would guess that whatever stores you had your Movies Anywhere account connected to would retain the the things that had been ported up until that moment. I I, I
oh,
would
really?
imagine that's the way it would happen. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
was
like
good.
I just don't think they could take it down and let all those rights die. So I think they would have to. I think they would have to do it the other way, negotiate it through the studios and negotiate it with all of the digital storefronts to say that when the connection dies, your content remains in whatever connected places it had been established with.
I've always viewed it as movies extension. Movies Anywhere was like an extension into iTunes, like that. That authorization living in Movies Anywhere was just being cross honored, rather than some studios. You go to their website and you get a code, and then that goes through
Yeah,
iTunes. You actually own the movie there. So um, yeah, and
technically, I wonder technically now if you disconnected your Movies Anywhere account from a storefront, you wouldn't see your content in that storefront,
yeah, they only
right?
let you
Like,
change it like once a year, I think, or once there's a time
yeah,
period to it. So
yeah. But I don't know. I feel like if it really came to the legal wranglings of a destruction of the company, like they would figure it out. Because I think we've seen that in the past with other digital storefronts. If somebody goes down, right, your contract, the things that you owned were not necessarily just contracted with the place, the storefront that sold them to you. They're backed by the movie studios, and so I think history has shown us that if something goes down, something else doesn't necessarily take its place, but like there's an extension of rights that ends up happening, and people kind of get, or you get covered in one way or another.
You make me feel a little better about it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Who knows what may come to pass if Movies Anywhere goes down, though. I don't know that we'll see another content sharing platform, a third one, rise up out of its ashes. Julius is asking if you get into 3D movies. I don't know if that Sony projector is 3D.
It's not. So it's capable. The answer is yes. I'm blanking on the name of the device. I saw Shane Lee do the transmitter. So I ended up buying one of those, and I'd never really seen 3D content, and brought my family over and we watched Avatar in 3D. I hadn't seen Avatar either. So yeah, I have the hardware for it. I have the glasses. I have a number of 3D titles, a lot of them children's stuff for my nephew. So I enjoyed it. I look forward to some more of it, and I'm interested to see if Kay supports it ever one day.
Yeah,
the niche, I know. So yeah, small library.
Yep. Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I think
like Tron was pretty cool. I watched that. So.
We dabbled with it years ago, and I couldn't do it.
The hardware was difficult. The like what? Getting the hardware was difficult. There was one guy in Westchester that sold it, and I don't know if it's imported from Europe. So it was, you kind of had to work at it a little. So
okay, the emitters hardware and stuff.
The RF emitter, yeah, and the glasses, and the cable that goes with it. So
one of our prior Vizios in the living room, I think it was a 3D TV, and my wife and I tried it a couple times, and I remember we were watching Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So was that Captain America 2 or 2 or 3? We were watching it in 3D, and it was the scene at the very beginning of the movie where they're like infiltrating the ship and Batroc, and those guys are like taking over, and there's a lot of fighting, like real close camera, fast cut fighting scenes in that opening sequence where with Captain America, and like I was starting to feel sick, like I couldn't follow it, and the way how fast everything was moving and how close these shots were and that 3D effect. And I turned to my wife and I'm like, asked her, I'm like, are you enjoying this? And she's like, no. Like, all right. We took them off, and that was the last time I bothered with it or experimented with a 3D content.
Expand is the name of the RF emitter.
Yeah.
I got confused. I bought a JVC Exofield headset for my father, who was a little hard of hearing, that's supposed to replicate Atmos, but I just never got it working and went back to B&H. So
yeah, Renacom Vision Pro, the last hope for 3D movies. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, despite my experience with 3D and my one kind of failed experiment with an Oculus, I'm still intrigued to try Vision Pro. I'm just eager to see what Apple does with it. Use Apple for your other. I mean, you got the Apple TV, so you all Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for work, I use Windows as well, but yeah, personal life, especially video editing, photography, any media, I carry a MacBook Pro. I have an older Mac Pro downstairs, Mac Studio in the future. So yeah, definitely an Apple guy. The Vision Pro I'm very interested in, and I imagine I'll end up with one. So
Yeah,
but maybe
yeah,
an
I'm
Apple.
curious.
So
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do, more so than just some gaming, and we'll see how the video content shakes out on it. Um, but yeah,
the idea of that for travel for me, hopping on a 9-hour flight or something, and having that device, I think is pretty cool. So.
Did you get an iPhone 15?
No, I didn't, and uh, I just out of circumstance missed the pre-order date. I had it loaded in the Apple Store. I did buy a new Apple Watch Ultra 2, but yeah, I don't know if I'll upgrade on the phone now. I just 14 Pro, so might stick there for a little while longer.
Cool. Yeah, mine are coming on Friday, but we're coming from 13, so curious to check out the camera and other stuff. I was debating whether to do like open them up, unbox them, set them up, and all that in some kind of a live stream on Saturday, but I don't know. That might be interesting for like 20 minutes and then and then not be so compelling anymore. So
I was happy with all the software updates that came out, though. I mean, iOS 17, tvOS. I mean, I've been updating Apple devices for 2 days now, so.
Yeah, tvOS. I think tvOS 17 looks good. I appreciate the icon density improving and control center UIs, and I think they made it look a little more high tech, I guess, a little less candy. So, and I always like UI improvements in my stuff when it comes.
Do you subscribe to Apple TV?
Yeah, we have the higher tier of Apple One, like the $30 tier. So get it all. We pretty much use everything as well. I mean, Apple Music, the whole family uses Apple Music. We use Apple Arcade and play games with that. Watch the occasional stuff on TV Plus, and then iCloud and other things as well.
Yeah, the content sharing has been working out well for my side, sharing that with the family members. So, especially expanding all the movie titles. So,
yeah, my dad is in our family.
I've been slowly putting LG TVs everywhere and insisting other family members buy them. So I just think those are some of the best looking products around.
Yep. Yeah, and you got the Apple TV app right there. They can access the library. There was a cool software update this week. Something else I need to play around with that I only started reading about, and the headphones that I recently bought that I basically really never use. Another death knell for the Apple Vision Pro for me is I have a hard enough time with headphones on my head, let alone a whole face mask kind of thing. But Ocal with the Bathis put out a like hearing based. They basically acoustically test your hearing, and then they will EQ themselves based on your results. So I've been really keen to go get a hearing test sometime this year. I wanted to cover that on the channel as well because I was curious to see what the results were and discuss a little bit, especially as we get older, right? How our hearing impacts the enjoyment of these audio systems and all this money we're spending on super detailed, accurate audio, and maybe we don't even hear in actuality some of that fine detail. But there's using the app, I guess the Focal headphones now let you actually do like a hearing test and a hearing profile for yourself. So I need to bust those out and try that. It's the time of the year for software upgrades. So
I will say one of the I don't want to say unexpected, but one of the biggest ancillary benefits of these Atmos setups has been Apple Music spatial audio Dolby Atmos music.
Mhm.
And the first night I turned that on downstairs in my living room in the 512 setup, I stood there for like 4 hours right in the center of the room. Like it just is such rich. I mean, arguably probably the biggest change in audio since stereo, I think. So that's been really
Yeah.
cool to listen to some of that content. And the
Yep.
concerts in Kaleidoscape too are such a nice addition to, it's kind of something maybe you wouldn't have normally experienced, but the platform brings. So
Yep. Yeah, they're pushing on that stuff hard too, in terms of like signing up more sources. I think they've, as I think this year in particular, like Kaleidoscape has gotten more notoriety, more awareness and whatnot. And I think they found to me, I think there's been a big sentiment of like concerts are a really, really great virtue of this platform. And I'll admit actually that I don't really use them myself, but I think the sentiment overall is a lot of people do, and really, really find it as a plus to the platform. Yeah, the spatial audio, when I demo this room for folks as well, that's also usually something that I'll pull up some kind of a track, some track or another on Apple Music.
when you asked about Kaleidoscape features before, I really wish that you could share content lists with other users. Like it would be very interesting to see what movies you have, and maybe if it was just between friends or publicly. I don't know with the implementation, but having some more community around what you own and libraries, I think is an opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Like library curation as a digital collecting platform that is a replacement for physical collecting. I think more features that let you touch and feel virtually the experience of curating that collection and sharing it, I think will be valuable value adds.
And I look at the Rotten Tomato scores and kind of use those as like a loose guidance. Everything seems to be, pretty high, but a movie I'm not familiar with and going to see that you own it or some other friends own it in the platform kind of gives it some more,
Yep.
validity and
Right. Trying to think where I think the video game companies do this better. Like Steam in particular will tell you, you go into a game and you'll see pretty much front and center, like, your three of your friends have this game, and that, like, gives you, so it's player XYZ like play this game for 45 hours or something like that. So there is like kind of a social proof element to it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Maybe somebody that I'm friends with or is in my friends list, but maybe I don't actively talk to all the time, like obviously really dug this game. So it gives, it's a little like kind of a +1 mental effect to it.
and then you almost get the old like VHS video rental stores of like, this movie file that people respect, here's his curated lists. And so
Awesome. Well, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. Getting late here, Eastern time zone. If anybody has other questions for Michael about his system, about his home theater experience, go ahead and share them. Post them up now. Otherwise, we'll probably wind it down here and call it a night. I think this was a fun discussion. Hopefully, informational and useful and entertaining for everybody that's come through.
yeah, I see Edward's comment about getting close to a K. I mean, I resisted it. I knew it was a bit inevitable, but getting over to the Kscape owners forum, definitely go there. Whether you're picking up used hardware, it's a great time. I mean, there's 2 generations back now. Even the prices of like the hardware that I'm gonna get rid of here. It's a great time to get invested at a pretty reasonable price point. So, and you will certainly appreciate what the purchase you made. So,
yeah, absolutely. If you need any help getting connected to anybody, Edward, as well, let me know. If you go to jeremypyle.com, you can contact me. I've got a number of folks that I can refer people to for different home theater needs and whatnot. Of course, as I mentioned, as always, audio device is there and the links are there. You can go order. But if you want some other options as well, I'm happy to share some other folks too.
Yeah, and that $100 credit was a nice start to get into the platform as well from your code. So thanks.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. New folks as well use the code. Doesn't just benefit me. Everybody gets $100. Yeah, those make it very easy to pick up new movies in the store on a regular basis.
Yeah, I thought content was going to be a lot more expensive, but like I said, between all those avenues, disc to digital, the sales, the credits, it really has been really cost effective. And I would say probably a third of the movies I own I've never seen before. So I have, I forget 280 titles maybe right now, or what did I say, 220 before, and so 70 movies that I haven't seen. So I got a lot of catching up to do.
Good stuff. All right. Oh, Edward. Yeah, thanks. You both got a local place in New York. Perfect. Well, when you get it, come on back in a future conversation and let us know what you think. Cool. Any final thoughts, Michael?
No, look, thank you for all your help and guidance. It's a lot of your influence has subtly played into my decision-making process. And like I said, with everything I have assembled here, it's just really been a great time to appreciate, the technology, the hobby, just everything. So, thanks for your help and in a good place.
Yeah, my pleasure. Welcome to the club. All right, folks. I think we'll call it here. Thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate it. And again, hopefully the conversation was fun and useful. We'll be back again for a live podcast coming up, maybe next week. Again, I don't know what I'll do for sure with all the new Apple stuff coming. If I just end up setting it up or make some videos or come up with an impromptu live going into the weekend, we'll see. Stay tuned as well for probably some community posts. I may be popping up in some other stream conversations here soon. So working with the whole group of like YouTube friends out there has a lot of cool people in it. And so hoping to collaborate with some folks coming up. And I got some other things to share as well in terms of some other plans for my spaces as well. I think I've got kind of some thoughts in mind to maybe make some changes and figure out what I want to do with the rest of the money that I'm going to put into the gear through the end of the year. So I'll be sharing that plan and those ideas pretty soon, along with all the other usual type of content on the channel. So thanks again so much, Michael, for joining us. And thanks everybody for tuning out, coming back for more home theater discussion and fun.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Take care.